All right. Well, welcome everyone to the October 13th, 2021 Brentwood Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. If you'd please join me at first for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, God, indivisible. All right, Mr. Moran, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Moore. Here. John Ritter.
Here.
Lisa Sharing.
Here.
John Nurberger. Not here. Mark Favazza.
Here.
Art Nelson.
Here.
Sherry Bilderbeck. Not here. And Paul Moran here. We are quorate, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Has everyone had a chance to review the July 14th minutes that were circulated? Any objection to approving those minutes, or actually any changes may need to be made? Any objection to approving those minutes by acclamation? Seeing none, those minutes are approved. I have one item, actually, we've been asked if we could make a change to the agenda for the evening, just in the order of that, to move the other business IT presentation ahead of the city planner's report. Are there any objections to moving that agenda? Thank you. So we will make that adjustment, and the other business will be ahead of the city planner report. First item, we have no old business. The first item of new business is 2107, an ordinance amending Article 11, Energy Conservation Code of Chapter 500, Buildings and Building Regulations, to require electric vehicle supply requirements, EVSE, and new and substantial renovations and additional on single-family, two-family, and townhomes, and new multifamily residential developments. All right, and folks have had a chance to review that. Do we have a staff report, please? Is your mic on?
Whitney Kelly on behalf of the city of Brentwood. This is my first meeting, so I am very happy to meet all of you.
Welcome.
This was brought forward by the Board of Aldermen and the mayor based upon discussion at the Sustainability Commission, our committee, and the Public Works Committee. They have asked that the city provide this as a requirement. This is only dealing with our building code, which is on private property. So this would be requiring a new amp vault for electric vehicles to be provided for new construction and level 3 major renovations, which is any renovation that requires more than 50% of the existing building. I did discuss this with our building official, and he had no issues with it. He has approved those in the past based upon the recommendation or the property owner's requirement that they would like a vehicle, so he had no issues. The 50 amp is equivalent to a new electric oven, if that gives you any guidance on that, and it would just be on their private property within an available parking space adjacent to the driveway or within an enclosed garage if that's where they wish to have it. So, for multifamily, we did include that as well, to be up to 20% of the spaces provided, and that's only for new construction with this ordinance. The existing multifamily dwellings would not fall under this unless they sought to add that as an amenity for their tenants, but any new multifamily dwellings, that would be required. And it is only for personal assigned parking spaces, so for like the townhouses, it would be within their available parking spaces that would be assigned, or however they want to provide that within their garage. It would not be required for any public parking areas.
To make sure I'm understanding assigned and unassigned parking for multifamily, because I know that was a concern from some of the public comment. So that would be, even if a spot was numbered and designated, if it wasn't covered, anything like that, it would still be required to have this for 20% of their, or
Correct.
is it?
And that would be that would be left up to how the property manager would want to manage that availability, but this would require for 5 to 10 spaces, up to 20% of the spaces would need to be EV ready, and for 11 or more spaces, up to 20% of those is the minimum. So that would be up to if it's an apartment complex, management to determine how they would manage that, the use of that. But that's what we're recommending tonight.
Any questions from other commissioners? on the staff report.
When would this go into effect? For instance, if somebody has done some foundation work, would it apply to that project that's already started, or would it only apply for projects where they haven't pulled a permit yet?
It would only apply for projects that haven't pulled a permit yet. Those that are already under construction or already on review, it would not apply to. And I would like to add, we did get a couple of comments, as the chair has indicated. There was a letter from HBA, the Home Builders Association of Greater St. Louis provided a letter that is included in your packets. And then Commission member Sherry Bilderback provided an email comment that went to all of you.
And we'll also be reading that in as part of the public record, simply since that's appropriate, since she's not able to attend this meeting.
And just to clarify, normally a building code text amendment does not require your approval, as you only review the zoning code, but it is under the Planning and Development Department, so I felt it important to bring it before you as well.
Like all things we review, these are recommendations we pass to the Board of Aldermen. They are not approvals, I guess I would say.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Whitney, are you aware of any other municipalities in mid-county St. Louis who are looking to do or have already done something like this?
Yes, this was based upon what Richmond Heights recently adopted, and I understand St. Louis City has also adopted similar
Yeah,
ordinances.
and unincorporated St. Louis County as well.
There's not.
St. Louis County has not. The ordinance that is referenced by HBA in their letter is for their 2021. That's currently would be their next iteration. They're currently under the 2015 IBC code, International Building Code. When they adopt the 2021, this is something that is being considered, but it hasn't been adopted at this time.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Staff, I'm sorry, Mr. Moore.
Chairman and Whitney, thank you for at least presenting this. I'm having some difficulty conceptualizing how this would work. As an owner of a condo in Brentwood Forest, for instance, if I were to renovate my condominium, more than 50% of it, and let's say my parking spot is within the 50-foot limit that's quoted in the text. So my one parking spot, would I have to put a
I did discuss that with our chief building official about how to implement this. We would not apply it to individual units within the condo. The way the code is written here is if it's 50% of the entire building. So the whole Brentwood Forest, and because you're pre-existing, we wouldn't really, you're only renovating your one part of the building, not the entire building. So it wouldn't apply to you specifically. If Brentwood Forest wanted to come in and provide it throughout, that is something that they could do.
Dan, I guess, what if in the case more than one unit is renovating their unit at the same time, to the point to where it's more than 50% of the building? I mean, it just seems to me that could muck things up if there was some question as to whether or not condominium units are treated as multifamily renovations.
That's certainly something we can clarify in the code language about pre-existing condominium units, that it would be excluded unless the entire condominium complex wished to provide it for their services.
Whole complex or just the building? I think you can see what I'm driving at.
Yeah, complex/building within the entire development. That's something we can certainly clarify as part of your recommendation to the board.
And I think if I could, Mr. Moore, that's a concern that's raised by HBA. I'm looking at their specific statement regarding multifamily buildings where you have wiring passing through common ownership, so you may have some concerns that you can't even get the wiring out because it passes through other owners' spaces there. And I think that those are some of the challenges there.
And as for the HBA letter, I was a little confused by, it's as if their writer quoted everything that was in the municipal proposal, the language.
She had contacted me, had
similar.
heard about this and contacted me, and I forwarded her a copy of asking for a copy of the ordinance for them to provide comments, and so I provided that for her.
So has anybody laid the two down next to each other and line by line, made that comparison?
I
I
did
don't think
have,
any of us are quite that anal.
I did look at it, skim through both of them. They are very similar. Again, because they define major remodel as any construction or renovation to an existing structure other than repair or addition that exceeds 50% of the building floor space, where building code requires that level 3 is a major renovation of an existing structure that is more than 50% of the existing building. So I felt that they were very similar written. I'm not really understanding the issue here. But Steve Muskoff, our chief building official, did clarify that when you are renovating the existing building at more than 50%, you're more likely having to upgrade the electrical components within that building to, because of the date of the original structure. So he didn't feel like that was a concern either.
One last thing, and let's just picture our own homes. Let's say that I want to do some minor electrical work that I've got to pull a permit, but at the same time, my wife wants the hardwood floors completely finished throughout the house. Now, I know that doesn't require a permit, but is that a major renovation?
No, it's not.
It will be for you,
Yeah.
budget-wise. but
No,
yeah.
a major renovation is like a whole building addition. You're taking out more than, you're doing a major rework of the entire space, a kitchen, new kitchen that requires electrical upgrades. That, just the hardwood floors would not,
But
an electrical would
My point
not.
started with the fact that I am doing some electrical work. I'm pulling a permit to do something, a kitchen. But at the same time, 75% of the floors in my house are being
That wouldn't.
finished.
Yeah,
Is
that wouldn't be
a
considered.
major renovation?
No, that wouldn't be considered a major renovation.
I guess the question or thing I'm trying to understand here is, if someone's doing a major renovation and they don't have an intent or need for an electrical outlet in their house, why are we forcing them to put one in at their cost if they don't have a need or use for it? It seems a little excessive.
The mayor and the Board of Aldermen and the Sustainability Commission felt that we need to provide this requirement.
Force our residents to put something in they may or may not need?
Well, with the number of vehicles going to electric, with GM announcing that by 2030 the majority of their vehicles will be electric, the board and the mayor felt it was, and the Sustainability Commission felt that it was needed to provide the particular outlet.
I would think if that demand was there, you would already see it in new construction, and the market would drive that, which it seems like we're a little early or premature for this. I mean, the market's not driving it right now. You're not seeing it in new applications, but we're going to turn around and deem that all our residents, that any new construction or any major remodels are going to have to do this whether they want it or not. It seems like an undue tax on the residents.
We can certainly include that as part of your recommendation to the board.
If I could.
Mr. Moore?
And to take Rock's opinion one step further, the way that the proposed ordinance change is worded, the penalties, and it just hits so hard before it even gets into the meat and bones of it, it seems like you'd be afraid to trip. So I echo your thoughts about, are we really forcing our residents to do something against their will?
I'm sorry, the penalties, are you referring to section 6 under the,
Well, I think the one I saw was $500 a day for every day that you are not current on the code.
Thank you.
I believe is what I saw was $500 a day concurrently for every day that you don't meet the code.
Then the concern would be to meet the code, you're forced to upgrade the electric that could cost several thousands of dollars.
so are you referring to this item 6 above that's not red or underlined in the draft ordinance? Because that's already in the code. I just included there so you have the whole section as part of the staff report.
If I may, first of all, hello, my name is Kevin O'Keefe, I'm the city attorney for Brentwood, and I
Thank
have
you, Mr.
never had the
O'Keefe.
chance to join you, so I appreciate you letting me come here tonight. What you're looking at is, this section of the city code adopts the Energy Conservation Code, a technical code created outside, by outside agencies, adopts it as a technical code of the city, okay? State law requires that when a city adopts a technical code in whole, such as this, that it cannot adopt the penalty provision written in the foreign code, if you will, but has to set forth the penalty provision in the city's code by itself. So what you're reading is an existing provision, and we're adopting the Energy Conservation Code published by International Code Council, dated whatever, and with these changes, including a specification of the penalty provision to be enacted, imposed upon violators across the board for all aspects of the code, which is the same penalty that's established for violation of the building code, for the residential code, for the mechanical code, all of the other technical codes the city has the same standard punishment. So it sets that out so that we meet the state law, which says you cannot just adopt the whole code bodily, but have to give it some thought, including deciding what's the level of punishment for a violator. That's the existing provision. The red line language in the draft as distributed to you would be an additional amendment to the published technical code adapted to this subject and adopted by the city and added as a part of the ICC's technical code. Does that help address your question?
What would that current penalty be then?
It's exactly as explained.
$500, as I said then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then
Do we-
the penalty that I stated was correct. Correct?
It is, as it is for all of the city's technical codes.
I think in the end, Mr. Chairman, I mean, nobody wants extra regulation and mandated costs and everything, but it seems like this is the way it's going, whether it's the city or Richmond Heights, and it is the market's not there yet, I agree, but there's nothing wrong with being one of the first ones to adopt it. And given that the price of new build in Brentwood is around $900K, as far as I can work out, an extra $1,500 isn't really going to break anyone's bank book.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Any other comments, questions from commissioners? We have, and I will echo some of the comments here of this is absolutely policy creation. I mean, that's what this is. It's, and I believe that some of the public comment is asked about this. Is it for safety issues? No, it's creating policy. That's what's been put in front of us based on a recommendation. Staff report did have a recommendation for a motion to recommend this. So at this point, if discussion, actually, my apologies. Do we have any public comment on this in addition to what was submitted? Anyone from the audience or anyone online? I do believe we have some participants that wish to address the commission on this topic.
Karen Smith has raised her hand.
Ms. Smith.
Thank you. I wonder if we didn't adopt this code, if our properties over time would become maybe like not competitive, because I agree that kind of the future is going, that you are going to have more electrical vehicles. And so we are going to need to have, and I'm not technically astute enough to talk about all the electrical standards, but by upgrading our properties to have these electrical standards, will our properties remain competitive with the area? And would it be attractive to future people wanting to purchase property in Brentwood to have these capabilities? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Anyone else? All right. At this point, the chair will entertain a motion, if there is one for this effort.
Yeah, I move to recommend approval of the draft text amendments ordinance attached to the staff report on application number 2107 to require electrical vehicle supply for new and major renovation of existing residences as discussed at the October 13th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Moved by Mr. Moran. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Favazza. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye, or same
Aye.
sign.
Aye.
Aye.
It appears that the motion fails 4-1. Next order of business. So there will be no recommendation going forward to the board, but they obviously can take this up at their discretion.
Mr. Chairman, as opposed to,
I,
lest there be any misunderstanding, but do you wish to make a negative recommendation?
I think their vote is the recommendation. I prefer that any motion is in the affirmative, so if you vote yes, it's a yes for the project, if it's no. So I will report to the Board of Aldermen that this was a negative recommendation by a vote of 1-4.
And I appreciate, thank you for that, Mr. O'Keefe, as well. It has been, I guess, the practice of this board that it's mostly in the positive, so I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
That's
It's
what
been
you get
raised,
for having a stranger in your midst.
but it's been raised, and it's a good point to raise, so I appreciate that, absolutely. All right, next order of business is P&Z 21.8. This is the minor subdivision preliminary and final plat of 8817 Powell Avenue to create 2 single-family lots for new residential construction. This is something that we have seen before, but I believe there's some new information here, so can we please go? Is the petitioner present? Not sure. Please, if you don't mind. I think this is fairly straightforward, but if you just wanted to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is J.R. Mayer with Prestige Custom Homes, here to we are owner under contract for the property at 8817 Powell Avenue, which we are looking to subdivide into 2 lots, both of which comply with the zoning ordinance in Brentwood. They exceed them pretty well, actually. The history in the project, because we were under contract with this property before, but it was zoned commercial. The owners then took it to be rezoned to the B single family, which it has been, and now we are coming in to subdivide it to meet the requirements or meet the standards of a B zoning 2 lots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff report, please.
A minor subdivision is a ministerial act as long as all of the lots meet with the minimum district requirements of the, it is to be approved. This project did receive approval at the at the Board of Aldermen based upon a negative recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Therefore, it is zoned B single-family residential. Both lots meet with the minimum requirements of the B district, and therefore we recommend approval.
And just to make sure I'm clear, this was rezoned, it was not just a variance it was.
Correct. It was a rezoning from a PD to the B single-family district.
So as staff has indicated, again, this is a ministerial function. If it meets the requirements, it is that's what we need to have. I would note, and I know that this was some of the discussion before, this was a difficult conversation that we had about this when we saw this case before. At least my opinion, I won't speak for the other commissioners, was we have a comprehensive plan for a reason. We spent significant funding on it, and if we consistently ignore that, what's the point of having one? So I think that's a concern, but I do know that many of the residents had interest in keeping it a single-family neighborhood and understand that that's the purpose it's intended for, so we appreciate that. Any other comments on this before we proceed with the ministerial function from any of the commissioners? All right. I believe we have, anything else from members of the public? Anyone here? All right. Do we have a motion? All right, we'll entertain a motion at this point, and we have a staff recommendation for the motion.
I move to approve the Warren Place Block 1, part of lots 12 and 13, minor subdivision plat, 8817 Powell Avenue, preliminary plat, and recommend approval of the final plan for the subdivision at the pre-mentioned address as presented in the staff report and drawings presented at this meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? I will simply note that we are approving the primary and the final at the same, to speed this along. Just wanted to make sure folks were aware of that. I have a motion and a second. my apologies, we probably should have done a roll call vote, and I forgot our practice, and so can we
made a
do a
note.
roll call vote, Mr. Moran, please, on this? I will remember my
Okay.
my
yeah,
practice.
Thank you. Jeff Moore,
Yes.
John Ritter,
Yes.
Lisa Shering,
Yes.
Mark Favazza,
Yes.
Paul Moran. Yes. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. All right, that is our business for the evening. We have now other business, the IT presentation on the on board docs, and access to that for our future packets, if you wouldn't mind. Actually, I will say aldermanic report, my apologies, but seeing no alderman, we'll move past that, and then we'll go to other business.
Gotta admit, it was not necessarily a presentation. It was a presentation of iPads. for
Got
you.
you.
You guys have already started with Word docs, I assume. And, oh, okay. Well, we have, the city has, because the expectation is to do board paperwork on board docs from now on, we have these for you so that you have a device to actually view it with. I've got some paperwork if you would like to take one. I understand not everybody is interested in taking one, but we can do that after the meeting. And if there's any, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that if there's any question about how to use board docs, there is training available. We can schedule that and have, we just need everybody's name and, you know, I guess we email address to send the invitation. It'll be a Zoom training, I believe, so.
I can show you as well.
yeah.
It's pretty easy to navigate for most of you who are, I have found to be pretty proficient with what you're doing. It's easy. I can show you how you are all set up in board docs. You may not remember your passwords, so if I need to send those to you again, please let me know. I'll be happy to do that. And it can help you navigate so that you can see all of this information that we send to you through board docs anytime that you need that.
You can do it without the iPad, I will note. It's fairly simple,
Yes,
so
yes.
you're able to do it online. So,
Your own devices will work as well. I'll
excellent.
be here after the meeting.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That's a good question.
Yes, Mr. Moore.
So will those iPads be available to us when we attend the meeting?
You will take them with you. Yeah, we're issuing you an iPad. Oh, yeah.
All right. They're yours to take home, so that you can review the documents before you come to the meeting. But if you don't wish to take it home, we can have it available at the,
Yeah, we
That's
can
all
store
I'll
it for
need.
you if you want.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We appreciate that the city is doing that. That's great. I like to see
Better
the
than
technology.
Pen and paper.
And I can zoom really far in with my bad eyes, so. All right, city planner report.
Good evening. Enjoyed our first meeting. There's a few items I would like to bring forward. On the city's website, it had a submittal deadline to attend the Planning and Zoning Commission 10 days prior, which wouldn't even meet with our noticing requirements that mailing has to be sent out 15 days prior. In practice, we have told applicants you need at least 30 days to submit so that we have time to get the landscape architect on board, the transportation study started at least, or if completed, and that if they submitted earlier or wanted to submit on that deadline that was posted on the city's website, then the first meeting they wouldn't take any action. It would get postponed anyway. I would prefer that we adopt that at the next meeting when I bring forward the calendar for 2022, and as well as going forward for the rest of the year, that we have a submittal deadline 30 days prior to the meeting so that we can have a more productive first meeting. And if it is an easy project that can be reviewed at one meeting, then we would be able to do so without running around 10 days prior and then having to come back for the next meeting. And then we would have it properly noticed. So I'll bring that scheduled to you at the next meeting if you're okay with that. If there's a project that's small that we can still make the 15-day notice, we would certainly give people time. but I would prefer to be able to have it properly noticed for your first review, which is the legal requirement, actually.
So the intent there, yeah, I mean, obviously the notice has to happen, but the intent also with this is to make sure that rather than having to constantly go to subcommittee, that we have all of the information that we need to have a discussion and make the decision at our first meeting. And that we've run into a number of times where, you know, we don't have the traffic study yet, we don't have the landscaping study yet. You know, there's some value hearing about the project, but we can also hear about it at the same time that we have all of those other documents and have a chance to review them. So really, that's the attempt. We're not trying to disadvantage any applicants or petitioners. That's really not the intent. It's just to make sure that we have all of the information and that staff has had a chance to review that when they make their initial staff report. So I think that's the intent of it.
And also, if there is a big enough project, that there are larger comp plan issues or larger discussion, or we know will be a big public comment period, but the transportation study hasn't been completed in time, then we can certainly continue it. But I think it would be more prudent and beneficial if we have the time to at least get things started and fully reviewed prior to the applicants coming to you.
Any questions, concerns on that proposed change? Again, this will be something that we will get put in front of us at our next meeting for the 2022 calendar. Another item, I believe, was the time. I know we bounced around a little bit because of COVID. We're back at 7 o'clock now. I know we were at 6 o'clock for a while for our meetings, and just wanted to take the commission's temperature on, is this the preferred time? Would people be happier with 6? I know, again, it's been back and forth, but just wanted to see if there was any thought, because that would also go into the calendar for 2022. Is there a preference? Are we good with this? Any strong feelings one way or another?
7 o'clock is easier to make. Oftentimes, I'm struggling to get out of work and get home by 6 o'clock, and since our Planning and Zoning Commission is rather small, I would hate to jeopardize a quorum situation because people are running late and can't get here on time for a 6 o'clock meeting.
That's a very
Second.
fair and strong
Seconded.
opinion. We will keep the meetings at 7 p.m.
Okay. Very
Thank
good.
you. Any other business? Anything else from planner? Rationale, I believe you will cover. I know that's
I will
not on
cover
here,
that.
but we have to talk about
We
it.
had, you know, in addition to being able to have applications submitted a month in advance, I would be able to tell you of any pending applications that would come up at the next meeting. We have had a request. We are anticipating that they would make the first meeting in December at this time, but I have not received anything at this time for the November meeting. However, there are a few text amendments I would like to bring forward just for clarifying languages, some uses that are within all of the districts that we might want to start looking at. And those are some things I would like to work on as well into the next future, is cleaning up some of the code languages that seem to be outdated, so.
I appreciate it. All right, well, we're very happy to have you aboard. We appreciate it. Thank you for all the communication. And as we learn this technology and board docs, I'm sure it will be smoother, but we're again really happy to have you here. So thank you so much. If there is nothing else, a motion to adjourn would be entertained.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Second from Mr. Moran. We are adjourned.